dear friends, I'm so happy to greet you and to invite you to join our celebration of the launch of the whole year of the Soul of Cities, which will take place today and will last until October next year. And this will be the expert sessions around the soulful, about emotional, spiritual, historical aspects of local development. And our today's session is the celebration and official launch of this series of events. And first of all, let me introduce our dearest guests for today's meeting. And let me start with Dr. Mohammed Wahid Hassan, who is the 5th president of Republic of Maldives. Hello.
Hello, nice to meet you.
Wonderful. Our next speaker is Dr. Alexander Laszlo, the Director of Research of the Laszlo Institute of New Paradigm Research and the Professor of Sustainability Leadership at Fielding Graduate University. Hello, Alexander. Yeah. Paul Van Schaik, architect, advisor, co-founder of Living Cities Action Research Ecosystem, consultant with the 55 plus years of working in international development, education, integral development, health and infrastructure sectors. Hi, Paul. Hi. And of course, Violeta Bulc, who is the founder of the civilization movement, the hospitable holder of this eco-civilization platform and former European Commissioner for Transport and Deputy Prime Minister of Slovenia. And Violeta, as our host, please, and myself. I am a research leader of Living Cities Action Research Ecosystem, the first advisor to the mayor of the holistic well-being and happiness of citizens in the small mining town Zverevo in Russia. And I'm a researcher of the ecosystemic development of local societies. And now I'm officially passing the word to Violeta, who will introduce this year of the Soul of Cities on the Eco-Civilization platform and in collaboration with the Eco-Civilization movement, the Laszlo Institute of New Paradigm Research, the International Center for Humanity, and Living Cities Action Research Ecosystem. So please, Violeta, the mic is yours.
Thank you, Marina, and thank you everyone who is joining us and who's maybe listening later on to the recordings. All this session will be recorded and later on shared on social media. So it's a real honor, and I'm very excited to start this series of discussions together with the research group for Living Cities, together with Laszlo Institute and all of our guests that are here today. We're especially honored by the presence of Dr. Mohammed and Paul. And congratulations again for launching the book this year on Soul of the Cities to Marina and Paul. This was a huge effort to be made, but very important baseline on which we could now build the future activities. So, as Marina has already introduced, I will go straight into just sharing a couple of information. Why are we hosting such a topic on the Eco-Civilization platform and what that really means to us? But first, just for those that are joining us for the first time in the session, in the series of sessions that we've been conducting in the last 5 years, Eco-Civilization movement is really a disruptive global cluster of people who care, regardless of on which level, within which communities, within which decision-making pillars. What it's important is that they care. And you being here, I know you all care. So it's also a safe space for engagement, collaboration, and innovation. And little by little, we're building up, after 5.5 years of engagement, we're building up now also enough fruitful lands to start innovating and delivering on a local level also some tangible results. It's possibly an emerging foundation for also future civilizations, being convinced that the fall of the current civilization, or at least the process of reinventing the current civilization, is taking place already. So because of this new paradigm that we somehow sensing but not being able to really clearly communicate, we know that this new wave will seek new organizational structures. We see it happening everywhere, that advanced ideas pushed and squeezed in the old structures, sooner or later they are weakened or even they fail because the structures don't support them. Of course, why they don't support them? Because they challenge their existence. So we are invited to imagine, and that's why I'm so thrilled about the series of these discussions, because I do believe they will help us to reimagine the future we want to live. And once we imagine, once we have a thought, the actions can follow and the change in behaviors can follow. So the basics for eco-civilization movement is really this: to imagine maybe a different structure of a society as well, which will be more systemic, more holistic, and more geared towards looking for a balance on this planet Earth. And the basic model that we proposed is not to say that this is the final destination, but just to show that we can reimagine the way how countries can be set up, the way how communities can be set up, and the way how they can engage with each other. And the year of the soul of the city actually fits really well also within this model, addressing directly the concept of the future societies. For me personally, the soul of the city is the essence of the intangible world that exists in between everything that is seen. It is the living field of relationships between people, nature, memories, and dreams that gives the city its unique vibration. And it also, for me, it's a continuous flow of interactions, emotions, and intentions that weave through daily life. And it is the collective rhythm and subliminal body of the city, the unseen energy that connects streets, people, flowers, animals, parks, and buildings into a living whole. So why is this such appealing concept also to eco-civilization? Because it seems like moving towards the same foundation: trust, cooperation, and responsibility that could potentially start guiding our interactions. And it's bringing together natural and public spaces, which it's inviting us to treat them as integral part, and not just an option, but as the essence. And also prioritizing justice, beauty, and well-being as the ways we behave and live our cities. And I see it also as a new philosophy of life, where nature is present in decision-making. And that's where, instead of growing and moving faster, it's inviting us to live in balance. So in that case, like eco-civilization is trying to move us from leadership to stewardship, instead of owning things to the basic living conditions should be shared and co-shaped, and city is a perfect place for such discussions and changes. So in short, why does it matter to the eco-civilization? The way how it's emerging right now, it is a living field of relationships, the invisible wave of trust, creativity, care, and reciprocity. And eco-civilization, that's exactly what it is. Relationships are the next value of creation. It's one of our position statements. While the soul of the city suggests that this is a living organism, eco-civilization is a mesh network of subsystems which are equal among the equals. And of course, this stewardship and of relationships we really seek higher quality public spaces owned collectively and guarded as stewards responsibly. So a real pleasure. And just quickly, this is one of the topics we're launching. We also have a Year of Leadership Challenge, which is finishing, but we do have 2 more sessions coming. And we also have the Year of Mental Health, which is also finishing now at the end of this year, but there are also 2 more sessions coming. And next year, together with the Soul of the City, we will run also AI Challenged. So thank you very much. And now I'm all yours, Marina.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. And I also would like to maybe share a couple of slides. Can I share the screen, please, Violeta? And Alexander also will share his slides. So maybe you could give us.
Yeah, you already have.
Yeah, perfect. So to share some of the ideas around what is the soul of the city for us. Can you see the screen? Yeah. So as we mentioned, why we decided to look at this topic, why is the city and why is the soul of the city? So first of all, when we were establishing Living Cities Action Research Ecosystem as a global research consortium of several organizations, we decided that cities are seen to be the most stable and the most alive social systems ever, because we know that states and empires rise and fall, and of course organizations don't live for so long time. People come into this world and dying, but cities, they are standing not even for centuries, they are standing for thousands of years, and cultures are changing and the states are changing, but cities are still there. And we also understand that being these biosocial, technocultural ecosystems, cities are the living organisms. They are the ecosystems of which are consistent of a great amount of different lives, human and non-human lives. And these ecosystems are constantly evolving through space and through time. So that's why we understand that if we perceive that a city is a living ecosystem, is a living organism, it seems that there is something apart from concrete and glass and infrastructure and roads and buildings. There is some sacred essence there to which we can connect in order to reconnect to the land and to the earth through these places. Because again, we usually identify ourselves with our professions, with our families, with our organizations, with our nations, but these are more or less imaginary concepts, whereas the land, the concrete place, the specific place where we were born, where we are living, where we spend our time, where we connect to nature, where we feel ourselves the part of nature. These places give us a tangible connection to the land and to the environment and to the planet. And this rethinking ourselves as planetarians is also one of the main focuses of our research. And in this idea, we created our Living Cities consortium, Living Cities Action Research Ecosystem, Living Care consortium, in order to foster responsible stewardship, citizen engagement, participatory governance, cross-sectoral and intercultural collaboration, and ecological regeneration. As you can see, very aligned with their focus and their vision of eco-civilization and the Laszlo Institute and other organizations which are the founding members of our research consortium. And as I mentioned, the soul of the city is a way of connecting people to these places and reimagining the role of residents and of citizens, not as citizenship of nation, but citizen as it was meant in ancient Greek, the resident of a city and belonging to the city. And more about the soul of the city concept will be shared by Alexander, so I will not focus on this now, but what is important that we created sort of the vision how we could reimagine this new way of citizenship. So we understand that the city is the most stable and living ecosystem. We understand that if we help people to reconnect with the soul of the places where they live, be it cities or any villages, settlements, or any human habitats, we can help people to reimagine their identity, reimagine their understanding of what does it mean to be a citizen of a city, a citizen of the place. And throughout our work during the past year, we understood that reconnection to the soul of the city fosters belonging, fosters resilience in people, helps people to reimagine what can be done, brings them the sense of agency, the sense of ownership and responsibility for the place where they live. And through this connection, through this reimagining and rethinking the role of a citizen in the place, we can help, as I mentioned, achieve our goals, which are fostering citizen engagement, collaboration, participatory governance, and ecological stewardship. And we believe that through this methodological approach, we will really help people to understand from another perspective their role for the places where they live, and their role as planetarians, as I mentioned, as citizens of the planet Earth. So what have been done? What is the timeline of our work? Last July, we got together with Paul van Schaik and with the support of all our founding members and scientists who helped us and people from 14 cities from 6 continents, we collected the stories of the cities, personal experiences and opinions on what the soul of the places are. So we published the book. In September, we presented it and we finalized the academic article, which brought together all the research findings, which we achieved and found during our research work while we were preparing the book. In September, we launched the Voices of the World Cities and Places marathon of sessions, which was conducted again in alignment with our partners on the platform of the Connectathon, which took place on 27th and 28th of September, where voices from different places created their orchestra of beautiful, and the choir of different voices from all over the world. So today we are here at the point, at the milestone 4, we are launching the Year of the Soul of Cities. And in November, we are going to open the online exhibition where each representatives of different places from all over the world will be able to upload their artworks, the presentations, the embodiments of the souls of their places in order to share the wisdom and their cultural approaches and the senses and the emotions and experiences of their places, so that you can just go online and have a wonderful journey through different places and reach out to our representatives in different places in different countries and make connections, because again, our vision is building the network of people who are serving the resilience and the regenerative stewardship of their places. In March, we are going to conduct the global conference, which will weave all the voices together, and we are hoping to give the voices to different places. Then this will be the conference of not people participating on behalf of the cities, but this will be the conference of cities speaking through their people. So this will be our online event. And in a year, we are going to publish the Soul of the City book, volume 2, which will include all the research findings, which we have already started collecting. And throughout of the Year of the Soul of Cities, we will collect the pearls of wisdom, the ideas, the insights, the new approaches, the new methodologies. And we hope that this new book next year will be the integration of the whole wisdom from different places from all over the world. So this is our plans for the upcoming year, and we are wholeheartedly invite and welcome each of you to join us And I'm finishing with the plan of our meetings. You can also find the whole schedule online on the Eco-Civilization website. And you're very, very welcome to join us next month and participate in our meetings. So now let me stop sharing and give the word to Alexandru Laszlo, the director of research of the Laszlo Institute of New Paradigm Research and one of the most active founders of Living Cities Action Research Ecosystem. Please, Alexander, the floor is yours, and please share your approach, your vision, your ideas, and different definitions of the soul of the city, because again, I hope that together in our discussion, we will finally decide what is the soul of the city and agree on the whole definition which we will use throughout the next year. Alexander?
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Marina, and Violetta, Paul, Mohammed, and everyone who's attending here, because this isn't another conference. This isn't a special interest group. This is really part of the exploration of what it means to be human and how to human well in this part of the 21st century, which is proving to be fairly challenging for many, many reasons as a global species. And the question is really, how can we continue to thrive, not just survive, and not just even be sustainable, but to thrive on this planet in harmony with all beings indefinitely into the future. Right now, if any assessment of that is coming up with the idea that we're in a struggle, we're struggling just to survive and to make it work. So this exploration that we're doing here and the soul of the cities is not a passing fancy. It really addresses the issue. And I think it is absolutely essential to the future of humanity to be able to take up the mantle of being an integral part of a healthy and sustainable planet. So some of the things that were already said, what Violetta, you were talking about in terms of relationality, I think, in fact, we are in a time now that we might call the era of relational intelligence. I think this is the central point of our humanity at this time, to develop relational intelligence. We have been existing for the past 500 years, I would say, or maybe more, primarily in transactional intelligence. And the transactional intelligence has been based on a sense of object engagement and a sense of sterile assessment of the price of things, not the worth of things. Even people are thought of as human resources, right? So how do we then come into a living engagement? This is the Living Cities Action Research Ecosystem is very much about living, right? What is a living city? When we look at the soul of the city, we're actually coming into the questions now that start to revitalize our engagement with life, our engagement with each other, our engagement with emergence and thrivability. Thrivability is more than just sustainability, right? Sustainability is living within the carrying capacity of your environment, but thrivability is the celebration of life. It's the poetry, it's the beauty, it's the exaltation of being alive. And this is what life is doing around us all the time. Right now, I'm speaking to you from Buenos Aires in Argentina, in the Southern Hemisphere, and spring is here. And so there's a bursting of life, right? And of course, in the North, it is doing different things. It's collecting together. But these are all wonderful expressions of this kind of a soul, of a being, not just of mechanical being. So I want to suggest a couple of things here. Relational intelligence is going to call on our ability to develop connective intelligence. Connective intelligence thrives in places like cities, where we can figure out how best to connect with ourselves, with each other, with the manufactured world, with the technological world, right? With the three natures that Violetta talks about so often. And then to move into really using our relational intelligence, our empathetic intelligence, to augment our relational intelligence. This requires then coming into a new consciousness, a more systemic consciousness. It's being developed in the sciences, and this is where the Laszlo Institute of New Paradigm Sciences is exploring these things, and this is why this project is a big interest for the Laszlo Institute as well, because we're developing new sociofacts. And sociofacts are the concepts that bind together the relational forms of being in any given civilization, right? So these are not just the artifacts, these are the sociofacts of our interbeing. And the sciences that are exploring this include things like biosemiotics, which start to explore how collective being has its own identity, its own belonging, its own way of existing. So, for example, like the murmuration of starlings or birds, or the flocking of birds, the schooling of fish, they have an intelligence of the group. Biosemiotics gets into that kind of exploration. How do we communicate at that level? How do we develop our relational intelligence? And what better place for us to be challenged on these sorts of things than in the cities? So now let me shift briefly just to a couple of questions of definition, because this then I think is going to be a big part of what we're doing in this launch, to try to get one of these sociofacts a little clearer among ourselves, among all of us here. What do we mean when we talk about the soul of the city? It's such a potent, evocative idea, but not many have talked about this in the past. And now we have these beautiful books that Marina and Paul and others have put together so fantastically, with many of our participations in them, that express this essence. But what is this essence, and how can we agree on perhaps how we would define it? So I'm going to share with you just in words, and these are just words, and words are not the things, right? So you have to sense what it feels like in you, right? But one of the ways that we're looking at this in terms of our focus is understanding that cities are not machines, but organisms with a deep memory of joys and sorrows, triumphs and failings, victories and traumas, inspiration and challenges. And that the soul is not metaphorical, but a felt reality shaped by relationships, environment, and stories, lived stories. Indeed, cities we can think of as predating humans. These are high interaction nodes of systemic interdependence in a kind of technical way, right? That they give rise to expressions of interbeing that are greater than the sum of their parts. So you have animal cities, you have cities of insects, you have, if anybody has watched The Matrix, you have the machine cities, right? I mean, so cities aren't exclusively humans, but what are these high interaction nodes? Some definitions from further specifications of this, and let me give you three alternatives here. Okay, they're just ways we're seeking to explore how do we express this. But together with you today, we hope to be able to refine this and have a more clear way of referring to what we mean to the soul of the city. But here's some things just to stimulate your thinking around this, your sensing, your feeling. So one working definition that we have is that the soul of the city is the living essence and unique character of an urban space, emerging from a dynamic relational field of coherence between people, place, time, and the more than human world. It is continually formed and reshaped by the intricate interplay of its history, culture, community, and environment. Right? It's a dense, but again, as definitions are, that's what they're. Here's another take. I'll give you two more takes on this, and I'll pass it back. One other way of looking at this is to think of the soul of the city or of a place, as comprising the emotional, cultural, historical, and spiritual bonds that inspire residents to innovate, to flourish, and to take collective responsibility for the well-being of each person, all people, and non-human beings, their places of living, and the whole planet across space and time. So that's another way of thinking about this and looking at this. Okay, somebody's messing around with the thing that I'm working with at the same time, but all right. In the third way of thinking about this, we can think about this. Are you sharing the screen? No. Okay, you're just highlighting what I'm looking at. The third way of looking at this is to think a little bit. So again, we're moving a little bit more from more specific definitions now to understanding this as a place
You
where
can
the
share
soul.
it, Alexander, if you want. It's open for multiple sharing.
Should I do that? Well, okay, maybe it'll be easier for people to see if I share. So I'll go ahead and share. Share, and we'll go over to here and hit that, and then there. Now, hopefully you can see. So this is just a little bit what I'm looking at here in terms of some of the definitions and what we're looking at in our exploration at this point here together. So I was just sharing with you this the second one here, right? And this third one, something I've been messing around with, is the idea of expressing the soul of the city as the voice of the people, place, and processes of any living socio-technical system, expressed through the eyes and hearts of those most familiar with it. It includes all their sensed and felt perceptions, as well as those surfaced by listening for the deeper expressions of interbeing that characterize the spaces and places on our planet formed by such nodes of high interaction. So as in all definitions, again, all of these definitions are dense, and they make it like a little difficult, but they help us when we think through it to see how does this connect with how we feel about the notion of a soul of the city. The books that we have out express this much more evocatively. Again, these kind of things, you can't express a soul really in words. The best way we can think to do it, because these are ineffable, the soul of anyone, of anything, is ineffable. It's a sensed being. But this is exactly the challenge of life in the 21st century at this point. How do we engage with each other? How do we use technology to support ourselves and our processes? How do we allow it to augment our capacity to human well, not to replace us, but to allow us to express ourselves in our fullest interbeing? What are the places that allow us to do that most richly? And those we think are going to be the places of these kind of cities of being, of interbeing. And how can we then augment the soul of the cities as the places of our highest nodal interconnections in the emerging interbeing on our planet, which is us, not just humans, it's us, meaning all of life as expressed through the ways we can help foster that expression. Well, again, all of this just to say we want to explore with you now, how can we then come up with this new sociofact, this sociofact of the soul of the city? What does that mean to us? How can we make that into being? Let me also just give you a quick here definition. I was looking it up here. The idea of the sociofact was developed by David Bindley in 1967 in his textbook, Theoretical Anthropology, in which he used the term to refer to objects that consist of interactions between members of a social group. So Bindley's sociofact includes norms that, quote, serve to regulate the conduct of the individual within society. So again, this is what we're looking for, the sociofacts of the soul of the city. Marina, I pass it back to you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Alexander. And I think there is a lot of things to think over, and we shared our working definitions in the chat. So, dear participants, you are very welcome to align and to somehow respond to share your ideas on this. And I really hope that we will have some time at the end for the discussion. And to finalize this introductory part, I would also like to share that we are looking forward to designing and defining today not only the working definition of the soul of the city or any principles of what the soul of the city is and how to to look at it and how to connect with it. But also we are going to create a small, maybe one-page starter action kit for leaders based on the results of our joint research today. And I hope that first of all, these outcomes will be the part of our book, which was announced earlier. And also, I think that the insights which we have, which we will gather today, will also be of great help for people in different places, in different cities. Of course, we are not looking for the one-fits-all solutions. But I hope that we will be able to give some tips, give some ideas, some starting points for people who are looking for this new understanding of the city, of connection to the place where we live, and maybe the new expression of what does it mean to be the responsible steward of the place where you belong to. So yes, this is our ideas and our plans for today's session. And to start with, as Alexander also mentioned, so from the academic perspective, of course, we are looking for the clear and rigid definitions in order to clearly state that Soul of the City is not only just something spiritual or shamanic, but it also is, it includes this as well. But we are looking for some clear rational definitions. But at the same time, the soul should and can be only thought, only sensed, only experienced, only felt. And in this case, I would invite us all to take a minute of maybe reflection and reconnection with our inner core, and maybe reconnection to the places which we like and love, and we feel that we belong to those places. And I would also invite Alexander to help us set this not only rational, but also emotional, spiritual understanding and connection with the notion of the soul of the place, and invite himself with his wonderful flute to focus, concentrate, or maybe on the contrary, relax, and give the place for our feelings, not only for our rational thoughts.
For how long, Marina?
Maybe a minute, but I think that this is also, yeah, just please think about the place which you love and which you consider your home. Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. So I would invite both our participants and our audience to share their own perspectives and their own personal experiences of sensing the soul of the place. And to our distinguished panelists, I would like to invite them to share with your responses on the question, what is your individual experience of the soul of the place? What place came to your mind and is in your heart? And what are the traits and characteristics of the soul of the place, which makes it felt like home or like some sacred place where you belong to? So what are your experiences? And I would like to invite Dr. Mohammed Wahid Hassan to share your perspectives. First of all, individual perspectives. So we are going to come from our individual experiences to professional and then to social aspects. So please, Dr. Wahid, share your own experience and your ideas on this.
Thank you very much for sharing your thoughts and your beautiful ideas, and also Alexander for your beautiful music with us. And I'm really pleased and very, very happy that you invited me to participate in today's panel discussion. I'm intrigued by the ideas that you have presented today on the subject of soul of cities. I haven't personally had much studies or research in this area, but I can relate to it. And I really like the focus on people. I think the soul, the concept of the soul of cities put people in the center. Although I also recognize that the soul is embodied not only in the people, but also the environment within which the people live their experiences. So in that sense, I think it's really important to put the emphasis on this, because until now, urban development has been seen more from the perspective of the environment and the infrastructure provided to people, often assuming that certain kinds of infrastructure, certain kinds of facilities will create greater happiness. Ultimately, happiness is what is manifested by the spirit of people's environment and community. For me, the ideas that you have presented are, absolutely fascinating, and I think this is something that will transform the way we look at urban development in the future. I totally agree with that. And going beyond sustainability, and as Alexander was also saying, looking more at how we thrive and how we live happily in cities is really much more important. So from this perspective, I gather that we would no longer be looking at how tall our buildings are, how high a skyscraper we could build, or what kind of monuments we set in our city centers, but create the conditions that enable people to live happy, meaningful lives. For me, that is a really important way of refocusing the whole field of urban development studies. For me personally, I may not be the best person to comment talk about my personal experiences immediately after such important and profound introductions, because I come from a very small country where cities are still a new phenomenon. We have only 2 or 3 cities in which we define size of the city as more than 10,000 people, because we are a very small country, and most of our communities are small communities of few hundred people, and at best few thousand. So any community that is bigger than 10,000 is considered a city. It also becomes very condensed and very crowded because of the limitation of land space. Our capital city, Male, is probably one of the most densely populated cities in the world. And like all big cities, we are also emulating the idea of big buildings and heavy traffic and all of these things. But that's very, very foreign to our culture and the way we have lived for centuries. But because of the pull of urban cities for education, for healthcare, and for employment, people want to move to the few urban areas. And my experience is that doing that causes the loss of very important and rich part of our lives. We build tall buildings and we encourage people to come and live there, leaving their traditional homes and communities. So personally, when I was listening to the flute and just reflecting on how I felt, the spirit of my communities, because I dare to say cities because we are so small. But in any case, Male city has a population of about 150,000 people out of the total population of 500,000 in the country. And for me, being able to go walking and running on the beachfront and the smell of the ocean and the ability to come across friends is a really important experience that makes me feel good and that makes me feel that it's a worthwhile place to live, right? At the same time, I feel a lot of this is becoming very impersonal. You're losing the personal touch on some of these things. Why I mentioned to you about the rural-urban movement. So there are also conscious efforts in the country to actually resettle people from very small islands where you have 200 or 300 people to bring them into the city. But when you bring them into the city or in a bigger community, you lose a lot of stuff. Okay, like I'll give you an example where one of the islands that I go to on a regular basis, the people of that island build community beds, like a big bed made out of wood of about 25 feet by 50 feet. And this is used by elderly people in the afternoon. They would come out and sit on this bed. And when they are tired, they lie down, they sleep, they spend the afternoon there. They're built by other people. And many of the people who actually build them don't come and sit there or live there. So that kind of caring for others seeing that as something that is important for not just themselves, for the whole community, I think that will disappear, right? You move into the city. That's just an example of one of those things. Now, the question for us, I think, would be, how do you then replace it when you are in a city? So, I think the sense of belonging comes when you have experiences similar to that, when you are able to help other people to, live meaningful lives and, get satisfaction out of it. So those are some of my initial thoughts. I also live in some part of the time I also live in Kuala Lumpur, which is a huge city, right? So there the experience is completely, a different type. Going on a Saturday morning to the local food market or the food court and be able to taste homemade foods, usually, little stores run by family members. The authenticity, the simplicity, and the caring that you get there is also kind of thing that makes the city of Kuala Lumpur very attractive. Okay, it's not just the beautiful streets, and it's one of the cities with the best highways and roads, and also greenery. But in addition to that, I think this human element is really very, very important. So those are some of my thoughts, and I can see how the work that you're doing can refocus our attention on the kinds of things that I just talked about. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. While you were sharing, I was just feeling, and I think even smelling the ocean, the handmade food in Kuala Lumpur, and all these things. So deep gratitude to you for sharing this. And yes, it is so important that while we are providing quote unquote comfort, which we think is important in the 21st century, it is so important to not to lose this connectedness to each other, this sense of belonging, this sense of serving to each other and bringing each other, just sharing a piece of bread, or maybe some small, very, very simple food. It gives this unique understanding of wholeness, of unity between all of us, and again with the unity with nature, with ocean, with the environment. Thank you for your experiences and for your thoughts about this. And I would also like to ask Paul, and Paul, I would like to invite you through two perspectives. So from one perspective, you as an integral thinker, as a practitioner of the integral urban development, you have seen a lot and felt a lot what is connected to the soul of the places with which you worked as an architect, as a consultant. But at the same time, you also belong to the very rich land of South Africa, of Cape Town. And this connection to land, to the local culture, to the again, understanding of the indigenous people in South Africa. What does it mean to be connected from soul to soul? It is so important. So please, Paul, would you share your perspectives and ideas on what we have discussed, and your feelings as well?
Okay, let me start with where I am. Hout Bay probably has a population of about 100,000 people, of which one is an informal settlement. It's very crowded informal settlement. One part is a less crowded semi-informal settlement, and then there's the main formal part. And there are 3 or 4 different cultures in this so-called fishing village, which is like quite a big town, and each one of them brings their own soul and has their own meaning. I've chatted to people in the 3 or 4 different communities here, and there's the soul that each of them have, or feeling of soul that each of them have, is very different from each other. They kind of melt together in certain places where they sort of combined, but by the nature of where they're living and how they live, and the cultures and the past history of South Africa too, there are many souls of the city, and it's a kind of a pluriverse of souls, and they mingle, and they sometimes join and sometimes are very separate. Quite alive, and in fact, the most crowded areas have probably got the most strong soul of their part of the city, and they sort of move into each different parts and sort of share, but in a sense, they go back to where what they see as their part of the city each time. And then this, of course, Hout Bay, which is just part of the greater Cape Town, about 20 kilometers from the CBD, is part of another series of villages and areas, and each of those has a separate soul. So when I look at souls, I think we need to be careful that we don't try and make it the soul of the city, but the fact that there are many souls of the city, and they will be perceived by different people in different ways. And also the environmental here, the whole nature of South Africa has developed out of conflict. And most of the people living in this area where I am are immigrants. There are very few original South Africans here. The San and the Victoria, they tend to be more on the other side of the mountain, and they're still there, but very discriminated against still in terms of how they are. So to me, Cape Town has a strong soul, but it's not a soul. It has a pluriverse of souls, and depending on who you are and what you are, and which part you live in, that operates, and they're not all even defined in the same way very often. Looking at the integral side, I think what I've learned from integral over the years is how it's what I studied with when I worked with Ken Wilber and others, is that it's a very much what is known as a weird Western way of looking at the world. It's a conceptual way, which in a sense doesn't include the indigenous and Eastern philosophies very well. And what you find, I mean, when Alexander talked about 500 years of that kind of civilization, but what we're talking about has existed for 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 years in these indigenous communities. And we're kind of reinventing something. We're not sort of finding anything new. We're actually kind of reinventing what they had within cities. So now we have to kind of make this kind of relational thinking, this kind of belief in much of the power of the land, the belief in the spirit of place, much more seriously. And I think I find it through the use, which I've talked to Alexander about often, of the pluriverse, which is that we accept that there are many different views, and we don't try and make a universe of trying to make them all the same. And it's a way that we can actually make them tuned together, and so that we don't have a universal soul of the city. And I think that's the one lesson I've learned over the last year or so of doing research in this area. And I think we've got an exciting time of trying to look at this whole urban situation, look at how urban relates to the rural areas and the peri-urban areas, and just it makes what we called in the Thrivability Foundation, going from from stakeholder to shareholder to thrive holders. And what as Alexander says, we want to be thrive holders now. We want to hold this and thrive with it, and not just keep things in that way. So yeah, I think that's probably enough from me. But it's that importance of not being too defined, not defining the soul of the city too closely, and realizing how it is really very much tied up with the soul of the soul of place, the spirit of place. And yeah, I think that's what we'll be doing over the next year anyhow. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks. You know, it's a very thanks for sharing, and so it's a very important acknowledgement, and I think that we need to be very careful in terms of not imposing our understanding and in many situations Western perspective of on defining something, measuring and making it some clear definition. And we also have several discussions while we were preparing the Soul of the City book, and we're discussing with the local communities in Northern America as well, the idea that this definition, as we already mentioned with Alexander, that we perceive and we acknowledge that the soul of the place and of the city, of the human settlement, it is constantly evolving essence, but at the same time, it could not be once measured or once somehow framed. It's mostly maybe the jigsaw puzzle of many ideas on many souls of the place. And maybe we should acknowledge and also maybe somehow included into the definition which we shared at the beginning of our meeting, that this is the constellation of souls. And it brings this richness, this diversity, this unity and diversity of different souls and different approaches through the lens of different people and different cultures which are living and have been living for centuries maybe in this place. And here, from one perspective, it's a challenge, but this is the beauty of this weaving together all this and integrating together without merging, but with honoring all these different facets and aspects of multiple souls of the place, and how it shapes the whole soul, which will not be ever finished in our comprehension, because all the most important things as God, as love, it can't be shaped, it can't be somehow framed in something, and that's the beauty in this. So it's not about the failure of ours of our research. It's mostly the challenge, but at the same time, it's an inspiration to unfold more and more different facets of the soul, of the multiple souls of the place. So thank you for this notion. There are lots of things to think over and lots of beauty in this. So Violetta, would you share your perspective as a representative from one perspective of the European Union, and you know Western culture very well, but at the same time you're a representative of the Slavic tradition and Slavic soul as well as myself, so I see this relativity, so relationships. So what do you think? What do you feel about the soul of the Slovenia, of Ljubljana, or of this land with the very rich, sometimes rather tragic culture and history? So what's the soul of the place and of the land for you personally?
I think we have to remember Western civilization, especially industrial mindset, really repressed many of the memories of the ancient. And being one of the belonging to a place which I can call aboriginals of Europe, is we're trying now to remember. And more we dig in our past, more we see how ancients knew how to really make decisions, not only from the brain, but from their heart and their souls. I'm learning about collective dreaming. I'm learning about fabulation, which is collective storytelling. I'm learning how not far away from where I live in the past, in the 11th, 12th century, where we started to practice democracy as part of the Carantania story in Europe. Communities were gathering around the lime tree and discussing on an equal basis the important elements and decisions that they're about to take that would affect the entire community. And interesting enough, without every family had a stone chair, regardless of their wealth, in a material sense. So all families were gathering around the tree and discussing on an equal basis, regardless of the material wealth. Not even that, even a step further, when they were two in dispute, they were always sitting on the opposite side of the tree. So they could not kill each other with eyes, but they had to use arguments to really defend their position in the argument, and the community would listen. So all that is really inspiring, and it's, just keep the connection with the past alive, and more, I'm sure that more of the memories will emerge, and more we learn, more we can read from the fairy tales that were written or from the old stories, because at the beginning maybe they don't seem anything, they don't seem important, but then when you start learning about the old ways, you all of a sudden recognize things that are in it. And that is something that has disappeared from the mind-oriented societies. But we see that mind can no longer solve the challenges that we're facing: climate change, poverty, the alienation, and we can go on and on and on, and even regional conflicts. Mind is short-term oriented, and it has this survival logic. So the old ways are teaching me, and I slowly are recognizing that first in a countryside, in villages where this is still alive. And when you bring heart and soul into the decision making, all of a sudden the long-term solutions make sense, and you then order the mind to deliver short-term step-by-step solutions that lead there. So this is something that where I can see the future of addressing the soul of the city, so that we start working with this holistic approach that Alexander was mentioning, and Dr. Mohammed and Paul were already with a very tangible example stepping into it. So this storytelling for me is so valuable, because it just keeps building this new perspective, gives the encouragement, as I said, to remember. We have to remember. And so I am optimistic. And I really appreciate this initiative that we have a space where we can do that.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Alexander, the same question is to you. While we were preparing your contribution to the Soul of the City book, we discussed with you that you have an absolutely unique experience of living in many, many different places across the continents, not only in different countries, but across the continents. And you somehow integrated the experience and the cultures of many, many countries and many, many places. So in this case, we discussed that maybe the roots might be also connected to somehow the being the grass. So covering a lot of different places and bringing these connections, or having this mycelium or rhizome system, which is connected in the ground, maybe even across the continents, because I believe that these spiritual roots, they are connected or even across the oceans. But at the same time, speaking about the soul of the place, while you were playing your flute, what was your feeling, and what maybe places you imagine when you think about the soul of the place to which you feel connected?
Yes, it's a great question. I hope everyone is thinking about this and exploring this. But we're hearing some wonderful reflections here from all of us. And I like that metaphor of thinking of our roots, because, there's an expression in a variety, some cultures. I know that in Australia, the Aboriginals will talk about the way in which the land speaks them. Indeed, it sings them into being, right? There's the song lines. And you are in dream time to be able to connect with. This is a different way of engaging with meaning making. But it is a sense sentient, really a sentient way of engaging with the world around you. The land speaks you into being. And I just wrote down this a little bit, how the land could speak you into existence, literally, because you are the material from this area, wherever you have been really alive. These are where you have the atoms from the food that you eat are forming the stuff of your body. In that sense, you literally are of that land. And of course, if you are importing food from all over other places, you are also integrating the land and the language of the different places, the language of the earth. So the land speaks you into existence, literally. It also speaks you into relationship contextually, because the land is the context through which you move. It provides you with your social and biophysical coordinate system that you have to navigate. And that navigation brings you into a relational field of context. So the land speaks you into relationship, and the land speaks you into life. So land speaks you into life because it is all the time changing. There's rain, there's sometimes too much of it, and then there's sun, and then there's all of this. It's also the life-giving processes that bring you into relationality. So I like to think about the roots that we each have, and this is what you were referring to, Marina. Yes, I remember sharing this with you a little bit about how a colleague of mine had a workshop on the multicultural child. So I went to that because I'm from, I don't know where I'm from. And people were talking about how, like, their father is from Ghana and their mother is from Ireland, and how they feel like they have these roots that are like intertwined, very different culturally, and they can descend into their different roots when they go to the different places. And they themselves are the interwoven branches and becomes one trunk, but they know how to go in, descend into the roots. So I'm thinking, okay, what are my roots? And because I was born in Switzerland. My father is born in Hungary. My mother is Swedish, born and raised in Finland. My brother's in Germany. My sister is my sister-in-law is from Chennai, India. My daughter is born in the United States. I've lived in Mexico. I was brought up in Italy. I can't say I grew up because I didn't actually do that. But and now I'm living in Argentina. And so where am I from, right? So I feel like I'm grass. Lots of little shallow roots. What are your roots? I think it's a wonderful thing to think about. What are your roots? Where do you have? I feel like I can be kind of a little bit of a cultural chameleon. I can go here and I can recognize tourists, who like act like tourists. And I can not do that. But and I can feel at home in many places, especially where they speak the languages I know. So where is home, and how does that fit? And this, I think, comes to something Paul was also talking about. And Violetta, you also touched on this deeply, this idea of a time to remember, because this is about reconnecting, really. It's not about just connecting new. It's about remembering how we always have been a part of our larger context. I like the idea of remembering. You bring membership back in. And that also means restoring our relationship, or restorying, bringing new stories. But these are re-stories. These are stories that we have known. And they're also stories from the future. I often share this wonderful expression from a colleague in Mexico who wrote a book called Recuerdos del Porvenir, Memories of Things Yet to Come. So we have that. We even have memories of things yet to come, but they come to us from the dream time, from the song lines, from our engagement with the world around us, not just from inside our own heads. We have been so stuck in that in our Western world for too long. And so the relational, this era of relational intelligence that Violetta was also pointing to, I think is so important. And this last thing here to share is this notion, I think that Muhammad was also referring to, this idea of, and Paul picked up on this too, unity in diversity. And this is key because it's not the unity of uniformity. It's unity without the unity. It's not monolithic unity. We all have to be the same. It's actually exactly not that. It's unity without uniformity. And it's diversity without fragmentation. Because we can have, and that's the key part, unity and diversity, where unity without uniformity and diversity without fragmentation. Then we get into our rainbow warrior engagement. We have the full spectrum humaning, right? We can do full spectrum human, not just one light, the white light shining. We need to have the full spectrum human capacity. And this, I think, comes into being when we have these rich engagement potentials in these high contact communities, whether they are very large communities or not, like in the Maldives. This is a place of allowing us to human well together, to augment our relational intelligence. And if we don't do that in this interconnected, interdependent world, we're going to be in greater and greater trouble. So this is exactly the path forward to find into greater and greater harmony and interconnectedness. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Thank you for this invaluable contribution, very valuable contribution, Alexander. And you know, speaking about myself, when the flute was singing to us, I was thinking, and so I realized that I was mostly thinking not of the buildings of the places where I belong to, but about the nature, about the riverbank of my native river Don, which is in Rostov-on-Don in the south of Russia, about the nature of my home nowadays in Oxford, UK, about connection to the land, about this conversation with the land. When I moved to the UK, I went to the park and went to the fields, and I was mentally speaking to the land, asking it to embrace me, to let me in to this space. And you know, my own experience, very intimate experience, when I see a hare or even a deer in the fields, this is the sign from the land to me that I am connected, I am heard here. So again, it's mostly about connection to nature. And my next question to Dr. Wahid Hassan will be about the environmental aspect of Maldives. You mentioned that there is scarcity of land, and there are some specific approaches to nature, to environmental protection, to feeling connected to the communities and to the not only to the land, but to the water around these small and bigger islands. And in this case, I think that this respect and notion of that we need to be respectful and responsible for the environment, for the nature, to leave it so beautiful, because we know Maldives as a paradise where people and tourists dream to come from all over the world to feel this connection to ocean, to land, to animals which are living in the ocean. And this beauty is sacred, and it should be taken care of. And what is your experience in terms of connection of the soul, of the spirit of the place, the local culture, with these environmental aspects of community development? And at the same time, maybe if you could share some ideas what continental cities might also learn from the places, in any human habitats, not big cities, but maybe small settlements in Maldives. What can we learn from your place, from the soul of the Maldives?
Thank you. As I said earlier, cities are very new to the Maldives. In fact, I think it was only about 12 years ago, we designated one of our communities as a city. So it's a very new experience for us. And unfortunately, for many of the city planners and local government officials, what they see is when they go to other cities in other countries, large cities in South Asia, as well as in East Asia and Europe. So we try to imitate and emulate those development paradigms without critically thinking about where we come from and where we need to go. Our islands are very small, very sensitive to climate change. So with global warming, there is enormous coastal erosion. So many of the islands are actually losing a lot of the beaches and land, and some of them are becoming very small. So there are now a few islands where a school is not sustainable. We have multi-grade teaching because there are no kids in some other grade levels. So you have to combine classes. This has been a phenomenon in other countries as well, in small communities, but it's also started happening in Maldives now. So these people have to be, they are transferred to bigger islands. But when they're transferred, they lose a lot. Because in Maldives, there was no concept of one nation before, one big nation, because everybody is so spread out, so isolated. We have about 1,200, about 1,200 islands that are spread over 100,000 square kilometers. So to go from the north to the south in a sailboat, it takes days, right? So people are very isolated, and people actually identified themselves with their island. So when you meet somebody from the Maldives and say, when you ask them, is where are you from? Until recently, they didn't tell you they're from the Maldives. They will tell you they're from this island. They give you the name of the island they came from, right? So there is a very strong sense of belonging and identity with that island and what happens on that small island, right? And they have their own history, and they have their own way of storytelling. Some of the islands have their own annual events, which are unique to those islands, which reflect the experiences they come through over the years. There are from the north to south, there are linguistic differences in a small country like Maldives. We speak the same language, and yet it is difficult for me, coming from the capital, to understand the dialects in the south, right? But the total number of people who speak that dialect would be probably about 20,000, So, but still for them, it's a really important issue. Their dialect is really valuable. They use it among themselves. Even when they come to when they migrate to the capital, to the urban areas, they still continue to use it among themselves. But they are, so they in official context, they have to use the, the formal, the national dialect. But what does that do to your sense of belonging to the capital when they come? If they can only use their own dialect only at home and with friends, when you come out, you speak something else. So that kind of, I believe this is also something that happens in bigger cities as well when you have migrants coming in. As for my experience here, small things also can make big difference. Like in our city, just building a green space, park where public can come in, where young people, where children and especially elderly people can come and walk, because it's not possible to do that on the streets now because of the traffic and the congestion. So that is a huge contribution. A place where families can have outdoors, but it's a huge contribution to the community. And so those are the kinds of things that really make a big difference for the people who live. And so I think, we are small, but we may have some lessons that may also be relevant to bigger cities. Maldives is like a microcosm. I mean, people often tell me, why do you come from such a small country? You must have so few problems to deal with. That's not the case. We deal with all the problems just on a smaller scale. So that's where we are. And thank you so much for inviting me over to be with you today. Unfortunately, I may have to leave in a few minutes. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for this contribution. And, thanks for sharing, because we definitely have to learn from each other. And I think that, as you mentioned, all the problems are very similar on different scales. And at the same time, big cities and European cities, and also we discussed this with the American cities as well, that they experience the same problems, the replacement of people from one rural areas to another, the loss of this connection to the native places, and at the same time how it is important to protect this identity and to protect this connection to the past, to the ancestry, and how to cherish this ancestry and make it contributing to the development of youth as well. And all these things, they are definitely, maybe we all experience it in slightly different ways, but we definitely saw, when we were creating the book with Paul, we saw these patterns which should be addressed, and this human nature and understanding that we need to be connected. We need to be connected to our past generations. We need to bring this sense of unity to the younger generations. We need to respect the differences without uniformity, as Alexander told us. So yeah, thank you so much for sharing your perspective. And I would also like to address my next question to Paul. So through this integral perspective, what would you think and say about the leverage? What might be done in terms of supporting this development, this spiritual connectedness, and again, what shouldn't be done in terms of city development in order not to erode this sense of connectedness to the land? So what might be the recommendations to people across the world in terms of urban infrastructure, in terms of city development? What might be shared and suggested from the integral perspectives to the leaders of local administrations? What we should consider and keep in mind, and first of all in our hearts, in terms of in terms of cherishing this sense of belongingness and bringing this understanding and reconnection to the place, in terms of enhancing their sense of responsibility of people and engagement of people into the urban development, because also it's one of such important things. And again, maybe it would be great if you could share it both from the South African perspective and from your personal professional perspective, because you have been working a lot with the Middle East countries and with European countries and with the UK. So please share your perspectives on this. Well,
what a question. How many days have you got?
Sorry.
I actually don't know even where to start with that. All I can say, from the simplest way to put it, is one of the integral's most useful tools is the four quadrants. When you look at a problem from a subjective and a objective point of view, and from intersubject and inter-objective point of view, And if you could look at it from all those different points of view, you at least have an idea of including aspects of them all. But the question you ask, yeah, I've got about 55 books on that at the moment now. I can't. I think it's asking for too much. But it is all those things are important. But it's yeah. I mean, it's I couldn't put something together sensibly, which would be helpful at the moment. I don't think on that. Make the question simpler, maybe. I could. I think, I mean, I'm working on some of this issue now, and just trying to look at the complexity of it, of looking at decolonizing integral theory, or bringing in a lot of indigenous and Eastern theories into these areas. It's a major transformation we're looking at, and I think, yeah, it's not something you can answer in a few words. I think the point is maybe we'll bring that up in our next book, or maybe we'll put another book between the two, because it is a very important questions, and I think a lot of work, and I've done a lot of work on it recently. So rather than trying to make a few trivial responses to it, I think let's move on to something which is more tangible at the moment.
Paul, could I ask you maybe about the leverage points? I think this is something that Marina was bringing up here, and I think that's something which you might be able to address helpfully for us. The leverage points, or the leverages for citizens to engage and their active contributions to to urban development from the integral perspective. What do you think, just in terms of that specific question?
I mean, I'm not sure you even need an integral perspective from that point for that, because I mean, there's some really interesting work being done here by it's basically a church group and a guy in Pretoria who is a planner, and they're very much involving local communities, and their kind of leverage is that they get as much local involvement as they can, and then they pressurize the councils to see the thing from their perspective. And a lot of their work is to make the unheard heard. And I think it's, in terms of city councils and the kind of the bureaucracy of places like here, it's a struggle, because the old likes to stay comfortable, unmoved, and very hard to leverage. And the way things do get leveraged really is very often through kind of small rebellions, small areas where people strike, or they just don't pay rates, or they don't do something like that. But it's those little micro actions which get things moved here, because in the end, it's the middle classes and the elite and the well-educated who have the voice. And so what tends to happen is what they want tends to push it. So the leverage we need is for those who do not have the voice. And I think a lot of the work which we do is to try and make the voiceless heard. And I think but leverage, I think from the integral point of view, you just have to use all four of those quadrants. You've got to look at how values can be changed by behavior and vice versa, and how systems can change and how culture can change things. So you have to look at using all those four aspects to try and get leverage into the system, and it can work, but it's it's not sort of something you do quickly. And as we all know, change is almost a generational game. It's something which takes a long time, unless there's a sudden collapse, and then things can happen. And I mean, collapses are leverage as well, and they do happen here. I mean, you get. I mean, like Wahid was talking about the climate change, which suddenly islands disappear. That is collapse as a leverage, and there are many of those around, and I think we're going to see more and more of those in time, because of the situation we're in. But yeah, I mean, I don't think it's so much as an integral problem, other than you tackle it from an integral four-quadrant point of view. It's an issue. I'll leave it there.
Yeah. Thank you for this perspective, and we also discussed not so long ago with Alexander, with Violeta at one of your panels about the leadership, and that the very systems are obsolete because they were created, as Alexander mentioned, in this transactional paradigm where mostly people were thinking about rational benefits and outcomes. And this approach does not work anymore for many reasons, for the technological changes which we experience and artificial intelligence, which is entering almost all areas of our life. And social media and our connectedness across the countries and continents. And the very systems should be rethought. So in this case, Violeta, would you maybe share your perspectives on the leverage in leadership, maybe in economy, in policy, in all these systemic institutional systems which and structures which need to be rethought. And we did, you and the eco-civilization movement have done a great job during this past year in researching this idea of what should be changed in the leadership itself and all the social systems which provide this leadership.
Lots of questions. Okay, let me first just briefly touch, and I'm not going to have time to dive into it, but definitely in the policy making, we got to start acknowledging the specifics of local communities, and we cannot have one size fits all, but have a general directions, have a visions, have a shared principles, have a shared values, but then really when we stimulate projects, we should encourage more community-based solutions, which bring forward the specifics, like very typical in energy field, not renewables, it's a very generic term, but different communities have a different capacities to deliver the results on renewables. So you cannot just say, okay, solar is the future, or wind is the future, or I don't know, the thermal is the future. You gotta tap into the capacities community have and ask them, so how can you deliver by 2050 the green vision? And then listen to that and approve the projects that are community specific, as long as they go in the same direction and they deliver the outcomes that we share. So that's one sensitivity. The other sensitivity, which of course, not of course, but I hope it will gain some attention. I, as a commissioner, was putting it forward, but it was almost like a joke accepted. Yet we see that our budgets are all too static. And the environment is changing so fast that we should have more dynamics already embedded in the budget. And my proposal was that we have, let's say, 20% of undedicated resources in every budget in order to then address the evolving challenges throughout the mandate or a period. When we came on board in 2014, there was nowhere in any of the planning, terrorism, the incredible refugee pressure on Europe, and many other aspects, like nobody planned for COVID in the planning concept, in the budgeting for the period of 2019 and 24 for COVID crisis, So, and every single mandate has a crisis that hasn't been planned for. So I think we got to start adjusting and bringing these dynamic elements into our structures. So that's a little touching a little surface on potentials that on the regulatory and the state level we still have. Well, for the leadership aspect, I don't try to be smart here. I'm waiting for the final, for the evolution of thoughts until the end of the year. And also then when we get all the contributions for the book that will be published and that we will jointly publish. But what I can already sense is that the current schools of leadership and trainings sessions on leadership, and then practical organizational sort of acceptance of the leadership is not solving the problems we're facing. And obviously, the leaders are not equipped with the right knowledge, with the right tools, and they try to follow what they've learned, but it's not delivering. More money we pour into the peaceful planet Earth, more escalated war conflicts we have. More we are pouring money into addressing the poverty, more poverty there is. More we are putting into different elements of climate change mitigation. I don't think we can be satisfied with the results because neither one country in this world has delivered the commitments for a COP24, COP 2000, when was it, in Paris, 2015 or 2016, none. And all presidents signed it. So something is not right here. And I'm not trying to just criticize and bring everything down. I'm inviting everyone to really consider that seriously. And maybe, just maybe, different leadership styles will apply to different topics. Like for the basic life-providing resources like water, clean air, fertilized soil, we need stewards, not leaders. We need gardeners, people who care and take care of. So I'm very much challenging now the concept of privatization of these resources. And I think they should never be privatized, but stay in the hands of people or countries. And then, of course, manage them from the point of caring and stewarding or custodians, right? But these are all invitations to rethink until we find something that will deliver what we want, because right now the solutions don't deliver. So I hope that is enough of a challenge for all of us to rethink it. And obviously structures do not serve us anymore. All these vertical structures, people love to talk about process organizations or modern, project-based organizations. But when you look at it inside, for the, majority, they're all still vertical. They're all still very top-down. And of course, the challenges we're facing, they need horizontal, lateral thinking, horizontal engagements, participatory engagements of all stakeholders. Right now, official structures don't support that. So these are all the topics they call for debate and finally decisions, and hopefully some changes that will come out of it. But as I said today, I had a long session with some people here from Western Balkans on energy, water, and food. And I mean, in a way, we have to agree that the structures and the solutions that we live today, somebody imagined, and it wasn't us. Somebody imagined in the past, maybe 50 years ago, and now we are invited to reimagine again. What do we really want? And with the respect, challenge what we inherited and just take the best and leave the rest behind.
Yeah. Thank you. And I just wanted to refer to our colleague Ravi, who mentioned that the era of knowledge is great, but if it is not combined with ethics, we will not achieve wisdom. So in this case, I think that this notion of the soul of the place, as we mentioned it, as a reconnection and as a relational field of history, of culture, of emotions, of values of this particular place. This is the foundation of this ethical approach to the urban development, to local leadership, to community development, to building the relationships with the people and with nature around, with the other species, which also deserve this respect and considering the rights of non-human beings which are around us equally, because we all are interdependent. We can't just think that we are sitting in our blocks of flats and sort of making decisions and everything is okay. And also I remember our Connectaphone discussions that most of mental problems, problems with mental health, they are connected with the disconnection, connected disconnection, so with alienation with nature. So when you stop perceiving yourself as the part of the environment, of the natural environment, when you think that you're something in your just mind and you're living in your illusions and your delusional perspectives and paradigms, this is the cost of and the cause of the mental health issues which we are experiencing all over the world. So in this case, Alexander, would you please bring us maybe the overall perspective as an expert of in the systems theory in terms of how do you see this systemic role of interconnectedness across space and time, and bringing together the systemic perspective on history, ecology, culture, social relationships, economy, not just as specific silos which are now on which modern leaders are focused in order to develop them most of the time separately, and one is developed on expense of something other. But how could we see it through this systemic perspective, and what might be suggested as a new decision-making paradigm and approach on both local, municipal level, on the global level, on the national levels, how we could maybe rethink it through this systemic perspective, and what might be suggested as a starting point for people who acknowledge that, as Violeta mentioned, modern leadership development does not fit the challenges that we have.
Thank you. Yeah, and I'm definitely with Paul that I would need maybe what 2-3 days, another book, so to get to these questions. But yes,
the whole year ahead,
That's right. This is good for us to begin to explore. I'm not going to answer these, but I'm going to perhaps touch on them in certain ways. They're very important to explore, and I think to get straight to it, the systems perspective is. I think what we're looking to do, I'm going to put this in a very, very big, broad framing here, is the next stage in human evolution. Let's just, why not think about that for a moment? Where the heck are we? And the next stage in human evolution is not going to be developing new limbs or it is going to be involved to some extent also the integration with our new technological prowess and artificial intelligence, which really, it's not artificial, it's aggregative intelligence. It's wonderful, it's aggregative. And then there's human intelligence, and then there's natural intelligence, which is the intelligence of place and space. But these are all different systems of meaning making. And the next stage in human evolution, I believe, is a type of collective sentience, connective consciousness, connective and collective ability to do much more than what exactly we were pointing to a moment ago, which is the illness of much of our Western world is based on this insistence on the kind of a strident individualism and a self-righteous independence. And don't touch, this is my stuff, mine. This is my ideas. I have the right to carry my gun, whatever, all of this mine. You are stay over there, right? And all this separation, this strident individualism and self-righteous independence is an illness. And this kind of illness that we have seen is manifest in ways that at least the American Psychological Association, for example, notices and has now a clinical category of attention deficit disorder. It's a strange kind of thing to be able to talk about, but people now, it can get medicated. It's very strange, but usually it's solved in traditional cultures by people being in connection with each other and with nature and so on, right? So attention deficit disorder is also a product of our contemporary world of disconnection. In the 1970s, Richard Louv wrote this fantastic book called The Last Child in the Woods. And he developed another kind of deficit disorder called nature deficit disorder. And nature deficit disorder is really an urban illness. It's for people who live in the concrete jungles, as they talk about it, but when there aren't enough greenness around them, and green actually causes those individuals who have nature deficit disorder stress. If they see an insect, they freak out. A cow is considered a wild animal. They don't know what to do with it, right? So all of these things, that the nature deficit disorder creates a certain type of neurosis that has been documented in the work now. It's not yet in the American Psychological Association recognized this in the same level as ADD, but NDD is definitely a phenomenon of our lack of systemic engagement with the world. And I remember a little cartoon from the New Yorker where you see a man in his office, and it's a white square office. Everything is white. And there's one little green plant in a pot. And the guy is on the phone saying, security, there's a being in my office. So, like, people aren't used to having, there's a green plant. It's like he's worried. So we've forgotten how to relate. We've severed our connection with nature, with spirit, right? And this is part of the illness. And I want to say that this, what Violetta is talking about here also, is the mental health, is a huge aspect of this illness that I think we need to redress. This illness of mental health, how are we supposed to be able to come into balance and harmony and flow if we fundamentally are having climate anxiety and we're living in dread and angst all the time, and we have not only nature deficit disorder and attention deficit disorder, but I think there's one higher level that is so nearly invisible. Like ADD, attention, people kind of identify that. Then NDD, it's hard to identify. It happens in urban settings and everybody is kind of disconnected from nature, right? That's nature deficit disorder. But SDD is higher, it's civilizational. SDD is spiritual deficit disorder. And spirit deficit disorder is where everything just has a object. Again, there's no life in anything. Everything is sterilely quantified, objective, and mechanistic. And then we lose the soul of the city. We lose the soul of life. And how to address spiritual deficit disorder? Through exactly the kind of thing I believe that we are doing here. This is exactly the antidote. The antidote means engaging our intuition, listening to our heart, not just brainstorming, but heart speaking, being connected in ways which really allow us to human well, not just finding the clearest, quickest, most efficient, effective, efficacious mode of being, but also the ethical, the aesthetic, the spiritual, and fundamentally remembering that we are loving beings, and that this is the connection that brings us into engagement with life. So I think that this is what antidote that is to the strident individualism and the self-righteous independence. It brings us into connection. So again, the next stage, I think, in human evolution is some kind of shared collective sensing, collective co-creative capacity. And that was going to come about through an emphasis on relational intelligence. And that's going to foster a systemic consciousness. And this systemic consciousness is the one that sees us as part of a living system. And this is what the soul of the city can help us explore, how to interbe or as Bayo Akomolafe would say, how to intra-be, because we really already are connected. And the question is then, how do we recognize and act into that interconnection, right? So that interaction. All right, that's my view on these things.
I think it's beautiful finalization of our conversation today, and I just think that so we don't have questions, but lots of thank yous. So thank you for being with us for these 2 hours. They flew very quickly, and I think that what you have said, just Alexander, it's a great foundation and announcement of our next meeting, our next session, which will be in November, which will be dedicated to their connection and these interrelationships between nature and spirit, and how we can reconnect with our own inner core and our own mental health and order and spiritual order through connection to nature, because they all are interrelated. And our next session will be called Sacred Ecology, Within and Around, because we are the part of the parts and this nested structure of this beautiful ecosystem of life. So let's continue exploring it and looking into the new ways of building relationships and building this relational field about which we have been talking today. So thank you. Maybe one word to say goodbye to our audience, and let's finish with it. So
the story continues, and I'm excited.
Wonderful. Paul?
Yes, the journey's on, and goodbye.
Thank you. Alexander?
And we are the story. We are, as the beautiful saying is, we are the ones we've been waiting for, but we're not waiting any longer. So this is it. Yeah.
Yes. Wonderful. So let's make our cities heard and seen. The souls of our cities heard and seen.
Marina, thank you so much for
Marina.
your lovely flowing of all of this. It was really wonderful.
Indeed.
It was a great pleasure and wonderful co-creation. So thank you. See you soon at our next sessions. Big hugs and the warmest gratefulness to all of you.
Thank you.
Be well.
Bye.
Bye.